Hi teachers, hope things are going well for you. Today I'm going to talk about TPR, or Total Physical Response. Now some of you language teachers may know this already, but it's not bad for us to touch on it, and I have a little bit of a pet peeve that I want to mention with it too. So Total Physical Response, created by Professor James Asher, Professor Emeritus James Asher of San Jose State University, does two things. It lets students understand the grammar of the language without having to study it formally. It's an implicit use of grammar. But perhaps more important, it also lets them demonstrate an understanding of the message without having to produce anything. It's a commonly heard thing that comprehension precedes production in language, that we understand more than we're able to produce typically. And especially in lower levels, very low levels, it may be one of the few ways we can assess how the students are doing by saying, stand up, wave your arms, draw a circle on the board, any of a billion things you can do. Now these can be separate, unrelated items, or they can be actually related to something that's useful, perhaps a project-based activity, a simple project if it's a low level, more advanced if it's higher. You can give them the instructions, or even better, if possible, have another student give instructions, and they can physically do those things without having to say or write anything. It's a very good activity and typically seen in very low or lower levels in any program. Here's my little pet peeve. It actually works at very high levels, medium levels. It works at all levels. You just need to adjust it. At all levels, I believe, students are comprehending language beyond where they're able to produce, in my opinion. And so by limiting the use of TPR only to low levels, you're missing out on a very powerful tool. I can give you one example of something. When I was training pilots in English for aviation, did that a little bit because I'm also a pilot, and so I kind of combined the two with my work in English and my flying. But anyway, one of the activities I did was, in case you don't know, listening to things on the radio as a pilot is difficult as a first language speaker, let alone as a second language speaker. So one of the things I did was a TPR activity with them, where I laid out in a big floor area. I basically laid it out like a map. And then I gave them oral instructions, as you would to a pilot, and they walked that as though they were flying. They walked the route. And that demonstrated that they were understanding what was going on without them having to say it. Now later, we were able to even add in their responses that they would give on the radio. But at first, they could simply listen and demonstrate physically what they were doing. They were very high-level people, very smart people, had a high level of English, but this still was another way to take them just a little bit farther. So please remember, that's one example. There are so many examples that we could give that just boggles the mind. You could use this in English for academic purposes, English for anything. Just remember that you can use TPR at all levels. Have a great class.